All right, we are sitting with John from the Medieval Mindset YouTube channel, dude. Thank you so much for being here, man. I love your videos. I love your vibe. I absolutely am in love with this idea of the Renaissance that you've made a few videos of. And dude, just like thank you for being here, man. And like, dude, how are we supposed to bring forward this Renaissance in this modern age?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I mean, I think it's a question that almost has to be answered individually, but of course, I mentioned in my latest video that I think any of these cultural changes, it's almost like coming from above in media. So like the movies you see, the TV shows you see, like that still does play a role, but I don't think culture is as centralized around Hollywood and what's on TV anymore. It's been splintered onto the internet. So I also think simultaneously it has to come from below, what you're seeing on your Instagram feed. And it's like what you're seeing on your Instagram feed is A, influenced by what you're putting out there, and B, directly influenced by what you consume. So I do feel like it comes down to an individual attitude of deciding to have hope. And then, I mean, that was kind of something I talk about in the original Renaissance, is that we think of it as this huge thing that everybody was involved in, but it was actually like individual kind of people that were willing to step out of line culturally and make a new declaration for a new future, and then kind of things fell into line behind them. So I mentioned the original video I made last year about the new Renaissance in the 2030s. It has like almost 800,000 views. And I said in my latest video about the Renaissance, if even like 1% of the people who watch that can start like hope posting on social media, like that would be enough to kickstart this. I think it's something that can happen kind of grassroots.
Absolutely, dude. I freaking love that idea, dude. Like, what even made you like aware of that? Like when you were, because you studied like the medieval times and this whole thing. Like, when you were first studying, did you think that a Renaissance, like another Renaissance, was possible? Did you think the Renaissance back then was unique or like a part of a cycle? Like, what was your view on the Renaissance when you were studying all that?
Yeah, I mean, medieval history has always been kind of the interest point, and I think for me, it was studying the. It's sort of like this blurry transition period between what's late Middle Ages and what's considered Renaissance, and then, like I said, the original Renaissance was, it's a lot of individual people, but it's not happening at the same time all over Europe. So it's a lot of blurry lines about like when the Middle Ages end and when the Renaissance begins. But even the Renaissance that we think of, Da Vinci, Michelangelo, all of that, there was another Renaissance 300 years before that, the 12th century Renaissance. And then there was another Renaissance 400 years before that, the Carolingian Renaissance. There were different Renaissance. They weren't called that, but there were different Renaissances, rebirths, cultural rebirths in ancient Rome, ancient Greece, ancient Egypt. Like this concept of like, we are going to make culture great again. We're going to bring back art and beauty. This movement of like young people finding hope in the rubble of, their current society is this historical cycle that's been going on for all of recorded human history. It's just that the most famous one with the most lasting like artistic legacy is the one we know of Mona Lisa and the Sistine Chapel. But this is not a new concept at all. And it's not necessarily unique to, Italy and France and Germany and England like 500 years ago. It's something that's kind of been happening all throughout history. And so once I started to understand that, I started to wonder to myself, why not now? And I'm super plugged in with like pop culture. I love video games and TV shows and movies. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I feel like there are so many things right now that, at least in my lifetime, I'm about to be 30, they're better now than they ever have been. I know everything's doom and gloom. We're all mad about AI slop and how low quality content is pervading the internet. And, you go on Netflix and half of the movies there have terrible lighting and terrible scripting, and they churn out this garbage like every week that nobody watches. But then it's like, for all of those, there are so many gems. Project Hail Mary. I'm also a big horror fan. Like, we're going through a renaissance of fantastic horror movies in the last couple years. And then video games, like this in my lifetime, this is the best period for video games ever. The one I referenced in my latest video was Resident Evil Requiem. I'm a big Resident Evil fan, but like tons of fantastic games. Last year, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Claire Obscure Expedition 33, all these games from like small studios making incredible things. So for me, it's just the more that I look around, the more that it's like, oh, if we're just talking about cultural renaissance, which I think is mostly what people are talking about when they talk about the original Renaissance, I think we're kind of maybe at the cut, like in the beginning stages, the early Renaissance period of a new one. And I think if we can kind of start to push that wave and give ourselves over to it a little bit, then that, I don't know. We decide our own mindset. I think we all noticed that during COVID. Like everybody just like culture became so doom and gloom during COVID, and we all just kind of accepted it. But that was a decision. It didn't have to. It never had to be that. And so I think it's a decision we have to make, and it doesn't even have to be unanimous. It's just if enough of us make it, then it'll work.
Yeah. Okay, so that really expands my mind because I never even considered there could be a renaissance in Egypt or there could be a renaissance in a different culture. Because I guess growing up, I grew up in Arizona, and we're just given like the main bullet points of history, and the Renaissance always comes up, and so I really only had like one track of history. And so just to think about that concept, do you know anything what was going on with that Renaissance in Egypt or any other culture? Was it always centered around art? Was it always centered around like a common set of activities for people? What did that look like?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm not as much of an expert on ancient Egypt, but I know that their Renaissance, they had three distinct kingdoms. And the Renaissance that came about was during the Middle Kingdom, basically trying to capture the glory of kind of the first iteration of the kingdom. It was the same thing in the late Roman Empire. They were trying to bring back the glory of Julius Caesar and the early Roman Empire and like the art of that time period. And then you have the same thing with like the Byzantines in like medieval Eastern Europe, who are basically trying to sustain and bring back the beauty of like imperial Rome and the way Romans talked and dressed and the theater and the art. And I would say almost always culture is a big part of it. Linguistics are always tied up in it as well, like trying to bring back these ancient languages or write more in Latin or write more in Greek. That was a big thing in the like Italian Renaissance. But basically, it's kind of this. It's almost like, yeah, it's like a make culture great again movement is like one of the oldest movements of all time. But I would say it almost always stems from the youth, and it almost always stems from art and culture and language and literature, that sort of thing. Architecture too.
That's so interesting because like young people love using new things, and the newest thing right now is AI. And when it comes to art, there's this whole like debate about AI within art. How do we do it? I've messed around with it. I'm sure you've messed around with it. And even though like when I generate a video, I am like mesmerized by like how like whoa, this looks quality, like this looks good, like it's getting better with lighting, it's getting better with like there's even like cinematic mode where like it's creating different shots. It's like, but then at the same time, I see a movie like Project Hail Mary. I see a film like I just saw the drama with Pattinson
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah, I
Zendaya.
thought that was great.
Incredible movie, dude. It's like, and that was a Swedish filmmaker. It's like AI can't do that. There's no way AI can have that particular sense of like of character, of aesthetic, of whatever message that there is. Like, so I don't know, man. Like, do you think AI and art is actually gonna like be a part of the Renaissance? Like, is that like controversial to even think about? Like, what do you think about that?
Well, I think something that's interesting. I mean, even just looking at, so I have two younger brothers, they're twins, they're both 21, so they're like firmly Gen Z. So it's interesting to like talk to them about their college experience because they're like the first group to go through college with ChatGPT and with AI, where it's like, damn, I wish I had that like 10 years ago when I was in college or whatever. But, or maybe it's better that we didn't. Maybe it's better that we actually learned something. But it's interesting to see that they actually I feel like young people always have the firmest idea of technology. Like even my generation was kind of the first to grow up like really online, and now we're the ones who are like pushing the chronically offline movement and like drawing more borders. Whereas I don't know, the like if you hang out with like your parents or older people or whatever, they're more screen addicted than Gen Z or millennials. Like they're on their phones all day.
Yeah.
So I do, that's promising to me that young people seem to have a better relationship with AI and seem to be firmly rejecting and like boycotting any kind of movie, TV show, especially video games I've seen it with that use any kind of generative AI for creative purposes. I think most level-headed people recognize that it's a useful tool. Like I've used it. I use this tool called UPDF where I get a lot of PDFs from like JSTOR and like these online, like to get primary sources for research for my videos. And it helps me organize them by like date and time. And it's like, that's an AI tool that does that. And it saves me a ton of time. And I have no qualms about it because it's not really doing it. It's like having an assistant. It's not doing any thinking for me. It's just helping me file basically. So that sort of thing. It's like, there's a ton of stuff. Apparently it has a lot of use cases in the medical field. I don't know if it's, you have Sam Altman saying it's going to like cure cancer or whatever, but it does seem to be really,
I don't
I
trust
know, I know, I don't trust him at all, but it does seem to have some positive use cases and things like that. So I think it's like something that's going to be here And I think, especially younger people, it's hopeful for me to see that they're rejecting its creative use. And I think the new renaissance will be in opposition to like AI being used for creative purposes. And I almost imagine, and I've seen other people talking about this as well, the same way that food is stamped with like an organic label, that like the human made label will become a thing on like online content, and it'll be like super valuable, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, and then the AI bots will buy the rights to the human label, and then we'll all think that
Right, exactly.
the organic sign is actually organic, but it's not. Like,
Yeah, I'm
really becomes
sure. Yeah.
sentient. No, but that's really interesting though. Because I've felt within myself of like I'm really interested in using AI for art, but then it's like not like I can get an idea out, but then as time moves past whatever I like, I might use AI for some sort of like image, right, for the podcast. And in the moment, I'm like, oh, this image is legit. It's exactly what I was thinking about. I iterated on it, and I think it's really interesting. And then time moves past it, and like months go by, and I'm like, like does that like what is this? Like, what is this image? Like, what was I really trying to do here? Like, this just looks like a computer made it. Like, it doesn't look like I was really trying to express anything, and compare that to something that I made by hand, and I can clearly tell like where I was in that moment in time. I went through like a
Mhm.
drawing phase a few years back, and I have this like stack of like index cards of just like little drawings, and I'm like, oh, I know exactly what I was feeling on that day.
Mhm.
I know why I did that. I know this emotion, and I'm like past it. I can recognize it, and I'm in a different place with my art. But then with the AI, it's like it's not like there's no timestamp. I think that's what's interesting. I think maybe that's what people are rejecting because art is such a timestamp. If you go back to the classic films, like it's not just because like an older film is in black and white that we know it's old. It's also like the energy around it, it's the ideas around it. Like Charlie Chaplin did that famous like Hitler movie where he's playing Hitler and he's kicking this like inflatable ball that's like the earth, and like that
Mhm.
was like and that was the best that art could like acknowledge that type of behavior. And then moving forward, you get Apocalypse Now, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and that's like some like epic war thing, but it's like it's talking about the horror and also like the grand nature of it, and it's like it's an epic film, but it's horrible at the same time, and it just keeps on going, like where culture is, and like there's a timestamp with art, and so I don't know. Do you feel like AI will like evolve to like be able to express that? Like I feel like it won't.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting question. I actually feel like that's a really cool point about the timestamp. I hadn't thought about it that way, but I love watching old movies too. And I mean, I feel like for me, it's maybe tied in with my like history obsession, but I love watching movies from the 40s and 50s because I love the pop culture references that I don't understand. I love like how they reference World War II as like the war, like as this thing that just happened. Like, oh, he just got back from the war. And like the way they talk and everything. I just watched actually the Stanley Kubrick movie. I think it's his first movie called The Killing. It's from 1956. It's
Mm.
like 90 minutes long and it's like a heist movie. It's incredible. But it's like such a window into the past and like how they treat each other and talk to each other. But anyway, all that to say that you're 100% right. And I think it's the same thing, even like watching movies from like 2008, 2009. Like, first of all, it brings me nostalgia from when I was a kid. And second of all, it's like, oh, the world was a different place. You could say different things, do different things. The storylines were different. The villains were different than they could be today. And so, yeah, it's a place in time. And the question is, I don't know. It's interesting too, because nowadays there actually are, I don't know if this has made it to like mainstream TV yet, but like, when you're watching Hulu, like on your home TV or whatever, and you get ads, now I've started to notice that some of those ads are like fully AI, and I'll be watching it with like my parents or something, and I'll be like, this is AI. And they're like, no, it's not. And I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
it is. It's totally AI. So if it's at a point where people can't even necessarily notice it, then does it mean, I don't know. So I feel like the hopeful thing for me is I would hope that if in the next couple years you open your Instagram feed and 99% of the reels on your feed are all AI, that would lead people to get off Instagram and go outside more. Like that would be my big hope. And that this would maybe bring back in-person performances, plays, concerts, those sorts of things. Like people would just get sick of, because no matter what, AI can never have a soul. Even if it can like give us a window into our current time period, or it can create something that later you would be nostalgic for, it'll never be able to have a soul. I don't know. It's just I feel like it's this weird intangible thing. It's like uncanny valley that we can always pick up on. So that would be my hope. And I think by and large, there will always be a portion of the population that's like, I don't care, I'll watch it if it's AI, if it's good, you know. But I
Yeah.
think most people, the people who are going to be leading this new renaissance, I think, are going to demand something more.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
You mentioned soul. That's so interesting. Like, we only like when it comes to like that concept, I think about like the Michelangelo stuff, the Sistine Chapel. You get that image of God and Adam, like there, and you can feel soul within art. You can feel where a person was. Um, like, well, what was my question here? It was like, how did people back then think about their relationship with spirit and art? Like, was it an extension of like their connection with God? Like, because like we have moved forward into a more like secular world, more atheist world. And there is like, whenever you mention anything about spirituality, about God, it's met with like, a little disdain, a little awkwardness, and yet people still like to watch movies and people still like to engage with art, but there's so much spirit within art and there's like this disconnect. Like, what was that relationship like with them back then, back in the day?
Yeah, that's the biggest question, and I feel like I love talking about this on my channel because I think it's something that's almost fundamentally changed in the human psyche with how we approach art generally, and it's actually a major loss, which is that our attitude towards art doesn't reflect eternity anymore. I think something we can't really understand is that in the medieval and Renaissance mind, like eternity was the goal, and eternity was what was trying to be attained through art. So for example, if you look at a Gothic cathedral from the high Middle Ages, it's this incredible, like the stained glass, the arches, the flying buttresses, all of this made by hand and with like, pulleys and like hand operated machines by stonemasons and by peasants who are working on volunteer time. Like it would be difficult to make with today's technology. And you had these guys 1,000 years ago making it with their hands, and it would take generations to build. Like you were laying the foundation for a cathedral that you and your children and your grandchildren might never see completed. And the whole point was that you are trying to reflect the glory of creation and the glory of the creator in what you do. And if you look around at the world, the natural world around you, at least to the medieval Christian mind, look at this wonderfully complex, beautiful tapestry that God has made in the world in creation. And like, who would we be in our creation and our art not to try and reflect that complexity and that beauty? So it's like you walk around one of these medieval Gothic cathedrals and you see like the incredible intricacy, like these tiny, tiny details that you can barely even see with the naked eye, that must have taken dozens of hours to carve that little thing. Why did they do it if nobody was going to see it? And it's because God sees everything, and because we're looking forward towards eternity, and we're looking forward towards creating something that reaches up towards the heaven and reaches up towards something higher than ourselves. And it's the same thing you imagine Michelangelo painting in the Sistine Chapel, laying on his back. I mean, this is something AI, like I remember when I was 14, I went to the Vatican, or I went to Italy on a school trip. And I remember being in the Sistine Chapel and looking up and not being able to believe that a human being made that with their hands, that they painted that with their hands. And if you remove that aspect from art, then what do you, I don't know, what do you, even if AI was able to generate the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, I'd be like, a computer did that. It's not impressive. But
Yeah.
knowing that somebody laid there for years on their back, and it's because he knew he was creating something that would outlive himself. And a lot of this now, I think, is tied up in like, I don't know, maybe like consumerism or like fast fashion, or kind of this culture of like using something and it doesn't really last and you throw it away, and it extends to everything we do, even like movies on streaming. Like movies are designed to come out on Netflix. They're talked about in the cultural conversation for a week, and then we all forget it. Like just a couple months ago, there was that new Knives Out movie with Daniel Craig, and like everybody was talking about it for a week, and then it was like totally out of the cultural
Yeah.
conversation because it's like everything's fast fashion has extended to everything. So I
Hmm.
don't know. I think the big difference is remove it. Like, it's not, you don't even necessarily have to believe in God, but just believing in something greater, that there's something greater than yourself. I think is something that's been removed. And I honestly, I'll just say that I don't really think atheism and great art are compatible at all. And atheism produces horrible art, and it produces like mass genocide. So I'm anti-atheism.
Yes. Amen, dude. Hell yeah. It's crazy, like, how many atheists really created a good movie? I can't really name, and, I think about, like, Woody Allen, but Woody Allen's still Jewish, and he's still, like, he has these, like, Jewish ideas.
Yeah.
His movies were good because he had that certain perspective, He wasn't just an atheist, he was also Jewish, so, like, that was also combating, I feel like th these ideas of, like, life and, like, how you should be in life, they are internally connected to your relationship with God, so even if you're an
Yeah.
atheist, you'll have to deal with that question.
No, I totally agree. And I think even, I don't know, I honestly sometimes feel like putting like labels on like atheist, agnostic, what do I believe, whatever. But I feel like almost by putting everything you can into a work of art, even if you necessarily like, even if you might label yourself as an atheist, that's like inherently like a godly act to be creating something for future generations to enjoy. It's a mastercraft. You put your everything into it. Like there is almost something spiritual about it, even if you don't consider it that way. So I don't know. It's almost like a paradox. Like I don't know, but I don't know. You look at somebody like Coppola or Scorsese, like even if at the time they weren't practicing Catholics, I think Scorsese is now, but they're like culturally Italian Catholic, and that informs their art. And you look at like all these famous artists and like even of the 20th century who aren't necessarily religious people, there's a spirituality to them that's inseparable, I think, from the art, and that's what creates like timelessness.
Yeah. Dude, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but Scorsese did this movie in 2016 called Silence. Have you heard of that?
Yes, yeah, oh yeah, I saw it.
Silence, dude, I was the only person in the theater when I saw that, and
Yeah, it flopped, but it's a great movie.
dude, that movie made such a big impact on me, like, I'm really looking at this guy, he's like Andrew Garfield, he's like he's in Japan, and like they're persecuting Christians, and he's trying to manage like, how do I spread the gospel but also survive? And then he meets his mentor Liam Neeson, like the master Jedi, and Liam Neeson is just like sort of let go of his faith, or like he's let go of like spreading that, but he's also still a Christian, but he's integrated somehow. It's like this really crazy dichotomy of believing in what you believe, but also surviving and doing what you need to do to move forward. And then like that moment where Andrew Garfield, he's told to step on the face of Christ, and he like
Mhm.
refuses to, and then
Right,
like
right.
and then he hears the voice of Christ tell him like it's okay, and like a really like calm like thing like that, like that really blew my mind, dude. And how
Yeah.
like how we put so much. It's interesting how we put so much emphasis on images, because every image of Christ might not be, or I mean, legitimately is not the image of Christ, like there wasn't any photographs. Every painting is an interpretation. And even though it's an interpretation of what he looked like, there's still this energy of like, do not disrespect this image. And yet there's still this energy of like, the image doesn't matter. What matters is your energy, or what matters is your intention, what matters is your actions and your
Mhm.
personal choices. And that's what really matters. It's not about respecting the image, it's about respecting yourself, respecting the people around you, like that movie just had a big impact on me, man. It's just like just really cool. I feel like that
Yeah.
might be a part of this, like the broader scope of what a renaissance might look like. I feel like that movie will age even more. It's 10 years old, but I feel like it's going to age beautifully.
Yeah, no, I think that is an awesome movie, and super underrated. I feel like it didn't get the flowers it deserved when it came out. Also, like incredible Andrew Garfield performance. But yeah, I feel like I hope like late career. I think Scorsese's doing I think he's doing a Jesus movie now or something about the life of Christ. So I would love like late career Scorsese to be doing more religious movies. That'd be amazing.
Well, he did one with William Dafoe. Do you know about that one?
Right, Last Temptation of Christ.
I
Yeah,
never I never saw it, but I know like people hate it. Like he gave Jesus some like Bronx accent or something like that. Like some
yeah, it is a little weird.
New York. Did you see it?
Yeah, yeah, I saw it a couple years ago. I mean, it's like I didn't think it was sacrilegious or like offensive or anything. I think when it came out, people like protested it just like on principle. But basically, it's like it plays out in this. The second half of it plays out in this dream where Jesus kind of sees what would happen if he didn't go on the cross, if he chose to like not be
Mm,
crucified. And I think like he gets married, he marries Mary Magdalene, and he settles down, has a family or whatever. But he realizes like that's not his destiny. And I think people just didn't like seeing him portrayed as like a regular person. But I
mm.
didn't find it. I didn't find it offensive. I think it's a great movie. It's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah. I have to check it out. You know, there's so many movies that I haven't seen of Scorsese's. He's like this, like he's the master of like volume. Like he has
Mhm.
so many movies, dude, and he's still making so many.
I
Um,
know, and they're usually pretty high quality.
right. Yeah, but that takes me to this to Coppola. You know, I'm not sure if you saw Coppola's latest movie,
Oh yeah,
Megalopolis.
Megalopolis. Yeah, of course.
Dude, I'm one of 4 people who loved it, dude. Like
I loved it too. I loved it too.
oh my god, John. Oh my god. I'm freaking out right now. Like
Yeah,
Megalopolis is good, dude, and people hated on it because what? It looks like it's made in 2005. No, it doesn't, dude. Like it looks like a movie. It looks like a good idea. It looks like a man had a vision of the future and he's trying to tell this story of like trying to tell a love story about like forgiveness and how we can move forward in time and how we can rebuild. Like Coppola had like something real special. It didn't hit right, but that's another movie that's gonna age beautifully because like the ideas were there and the energy was there, man. Like it's so like that movie was so real.
I know. I actually saw it twice. I saw it twice in theaters,
Wow, dude.
because like the
Dude, I mean, I just saw it 3 times, dude.
dude, well, because it's fun to see. I would love. I hope it becomes like Rocky Horror Picture Show or something where they do like live showings because it's fun to watch with an audience because like people laugh and cheer and like react to it. And it's like I think the disconnect with the critics was that like people took it too seriously, but there
Mhm.
are definitely parts of it that are supposed to be comedic or lighthearted. I loved the dialogue. I loved how bizarre the acting was. And I loved seeing a work of art that's totally unique, where I'm like, I don't even have a reference point. I've never seen anything that's even sort of like this.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just thought it just, I don't know, it reached for the moon and it missed, but it landed in the stars, as they say.
Yeah,
I just
dude.
thought it was great. And also, like, I'm a big Shia fan. I'll watch anything with Shia in it.
Oh
I
my
thought
god,
he was
dude.
great in that. And
Shia
Adam
LaBeouf.
Driver. Adam
Shia
Driver
LaBeouf
was great.
is a
Yeah.
spirit animal, dude. Like I freaking
Yeah.
love Shia, man. I was when I heard because I did a few episodes on like the making of Megalopolis for the podcast, and I um I was like highly anticipating it. I was doing my best to hype it up, and just seeing the cast, you know, like you get that wide range of the cast, and like and the movie is like a little it's political, but it's not political. And but the behind the scenes, you know, Coppola has a very political mindset, and he hires John Voight, who's like famously uh, conservative, and
Yeah.
he's like pro Trump, and then like everyone else is like not pro Trump, but then there's people in the middle here, and Coppola he's anti Trump, but he's still willing to work with an actor who has that perspective, and he was willing to respect that perspective when they were at Cannes, Cons, whatever you call it, at the Cannes Film Festival, and just to be able to have that conversation, you know, that's not like that is countercultural. To be
Mhm.
open to those perspectives, to be open to how do we approach society, like that's so different from what anyone else is doing, you know, like freaking you mentioned Ryan Johnson. Like I totally boycott all of Ryan Johnson's movies just because of the Last Jedi.
Yeah, I
That,
know it was atrocious. I'm
that shit,
really not. Yeah.
uh, I'm a George Lucas purist, and
Mhm.
I feel like there's filmmakers who pick one side and they're uninterested in what the other side has to say. And they think that one side needs to die, you know? Like it just goes into like whatever the Last Jedi was about. Just like just burn the books. It doesn't matter what the Jedi were built on, you know? Like just burn it all away and it's about what you or whatever the freak he had
Mhm.
Yoda say. Like it's just I don't want to burn things down. I want to rebuild things, you know, in a better image. And that's what Megalopolis was going, you know. Adam Driver's character, he had the power to destroy, but then it was always in with the intention of rebuilding something more beautiful. And it's that there's like an inverse of that. People just want to destroy things. People just want to destroy ideas. You know, if there's a person who's not of faith who's making a movie and they sort of like go countercultural. They sort of make fun of the religion. There's nothing better. Like they're not presenting something better. They're just trying to burn it. And it's just, I mean, it's just disrespectful, honestly.
Well, yeah, no, and I think also the big thing now with like kind of this like Gen Z religious revival that I've seen like a million articles about, and is that it's not really countercultural anymore to like make fun of Christianity or make fun of religion in like movies and TV shows because it's like so now that is mainstream culture. Like maybe like 50 years ago, that was countercultural, but
Yep.
now that is mainstream culture. So it's like, how do you rebel now? And it's so funny seeing these like 20-year-olds that the way that they're rebelling is like going back to traditional like Catholicism or Orthodox Christianity. Cause that's like the only way to rebel is actually to go all the way the other way and
Yeah.
like embrace truth and beauty again. And it's like, okay, well, I think that's part of the Renaissance too, is that I don't think your whole identity can be defined by like what you're opposed to. I think you need to be like embracing something and actually standing for something, because I don't
Mhm.
think there's real bravery in just criticizing everything around you and not really holding any values. I think people have known that since forever. So I do think that there's something hopeful that I see with younger people, even outside of religion, is that politically, socially, religiously, they're willing to have these beliefs and like really go to bat for them in a meaningful way. And I think that's something that could really stand to make a comeback.
Yeah. It's interesting for me because I grew up Christian. I grew up, I guess it would be called Protestant. And so
Mhm.
there really is no like traditions in Protestantism. We just focus on the Bible, we just focus on the New Testament. And that I sort of I've sort of fallen away from that type of understanding. I don't really consider myself a Christian anymore, but I hold deeply the teachings of Jesus, and I have always sought connection, or I've always sought to connect the dots between, like, what Jesus was saying, what Buddha was saying. I feel as though there is like a truth to reach out towards, and maybe I don't have a high opinion on religion at large, but seeing young people and hearing discussions about young people going towards religion, I do feel like that's a net positive at the very least, because it's just like that line in Project Hail Mary. Maybe we can talk about that for a little bit. Like, there's that line in Project Hail Mary where Ryan Gosling, he doesn't know he's going to go into space, but he's like about to, and they're on the ship, and he's talking to the main lady, and he's like, "Do you believe in God?" And she's like, "It's better than the alternative." And
Mhm.
like that, when I first saw that, when I first heard that line, I'm like, "Whoa!" That hyped me up in the theater, dude. Like that, I
Mhm.
almost applauded in my theater. Like,
I mean, yeah, yeah. To hear a line like that in a major Hollywood movie, like you would not have heard that in the COVID years. You would not have heard that. Like even to me, that's like I don't know. Like I said, it kind of has to trickle down from pop culture the same way it's like trickling up from your Instagram feed and whatever the people you know are posting. And to me, it was really encouraging to see that. And even with young people, I don't even think it's necessarily, it does seem to be happening somewhat within the parameters of organized religion. But I think even outside of the parameters of organized religion, just kind of more generalized spirituality, there seems to be an increasing openness to that. Cause
mhm,
like when I grew up, it was like the age of like the Reddit atheist and like, all these like popular guys on YouTube that would like dispel religion and whatever. And it was like cool to not believe in anything. And then now it's not even necessarily Christianity or Islam or Buddhism or whatever. It's like just a willingness, an openness to something greater. And I think that's all you need is to crack that door a little bit. And I think that in and of itself leads to a greater appreciation for beauty, art, eternity, whatever. And, all these things are kind of the seeds being sown, hopefully, of something fantastic in the next decade or so.
yeah, man, that makes me think about the filmmakers. You got the directors of Project Hail Mary. It's Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, and they have like a really interesting range of films. They did the 21 Jump Street reboot, and then they did the Lego movie. And it's like, but I was, after I saw Project Hail Mary, I was looking for like a through line. And they also did the Spider Verse. And the through line is like their films are always like lively. There's no cynicism within their movies. And they even made fun of like the reboot idea when they were doing the 21 Jump Street thing. It's like, but they brought new life into it. They weren't trying to destroy something. They even wanted to like they wanted to make it better. And then there's like this lore with like they were supposed to do a 23 Jump Street, and it was supposed to be like a Men in Black crossover, like that takes it to a new level. Like, you reboot it and then you connect it to something bigger and wider and like totally insane. It wasn't just, oh, we're gonna make a joke out of it. It's, we're gonna have fun and we're gonna try to build something that everyone is enjoying more. And then there's this idea in the Lego movie, which I'm not trying to get philosophical about Legos, but like the idea of like the master builder, the idea that you can actually build whatever you want and you're not just a cog in the machine, you're not just a worker. you have more agency in your life. Like that's a profound idea. Like that, like it's equivalent to Luke Skywalker. You know, it's equivalent to pick your hero to Harry Potter. You know, like you are that guy, you are that person, you are that main character who can build their life. You can save the freaking world, dude. You can save the universe going to Project Hail Mary, and
Mm-hmm.
we can build new friendships. We can like I'm almost getting emotional from the Lego movie, dude. Like it's ridiculous. But like let's talk about Project Hail Mary. Like why does that movie hit us so hard? And is that really hitting the culture, do you think?
I mean, well, whether or not it's hitting it's tough to say whether or not it's hitting the culture because, like I've said in some of my videos, there's not as much of a monoculture right, like anymore. So it's not like there's these shows or movies that like everybody sees and everybody talks about. But it seems like in 2026, something like Project Hail Mary is about as close as you can get to that. It's been like a smash box office success. I went to go see it a couple weeks after it came out, and like the theater was packed at like 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. And I don't know, it seems like everybody's seen it, everybody's talking about it. I've seen in the comment section of my latest video where I talk about it that like everybody has an opinion on it, mostly positive, some neutral, some negative. Like obviously you're going to get a range of reactions to everything. But I think to me, it's a sign that people are reacting to like fun and hope. And I know it's technically existing IP because there was a book, Project Hail Mary, that was before this, but it's not existing IP in the sense of like Marvel or Star Wars. Like I'm sure most people that saw the movie had never even heard of that book, even though it's a somewhat popular book. But I think most people went into it blind, and they went into it, I think, because of Ryan Gosling, but he's had plenty of movies that haven't done that great. He had The Fall Guy with Emily Blunt last year that flopped. He had Gray Man, which was a Netflix movie a couple years ago that was awful. So it's not like people just went to go see it because he's a movie star. They went to go see it because there was real hype. And I think word of mouth as well is super important for these movies on social media. And that like everything is political now, and everything, we're constantly surrounded by people who are like beating you over the head with their opinions. And sometimes you just want to go sit in the movie theater for 2.5 hours and like soak in the beauty of the human condition, and that somebody might be willing to sacrifice themselves for the greater good, and that there still is something deep and innate within us. Because obviously everything on social media, the whole algorithm is fueled by negativity and fueled by pitting people against each other and fueled by, I don't know, these things that are seemingly designed to make you feel small, control you, and destroy your mental health. And then to go and see something that's grand and beautiful, especially if you saw it in IMAX, like it's really a sensory experience. And to take you into something greater than yourself, and to take you into something that's like, these things still matter. Even in the space age, these things still matter. Like seeking truth and beauty and self-sacrifice. There's no higher good than sacrificing yourself for your brother. Like this sort of thing. These innate human, these are parts of the human soul that I feel like sometimes in modern culture it's easy to become disconnected from. I think when we're faced with them in such a well-packaged way, it's almost impossible not to respond. And I think that's the response people have been having. I mean, even just when I was doing my research for that video, I was just like looking at like news articles that have been written about Project Hail Mary. And it was like every major publication, Washington Post, New York Times, like everybody had written a think piece about, wow, is hope back in Hollywood? Are we out of the COVID era of everything having to be political and everything having to be about how bad and divided the world is? Like, are we finally having fun again? And I think it's what the kids want. It's why they're into Y2K culture. They want back when all the music was about going to the club and the clothes were fun and colorful. And like, we're sick of doom and gloom. We're sick of corporate gray. We're sick of all this stuff. We want beauty again. And I think the response to Project Hail Mary has been a big sort of like finger on the pulse for that, as close as we can get in like a post monoculture society. But
Yeah.
it's very encouraging for me.
Yeah, man, it gets me hyped up, dude. Like it takes me back to when I was a kid. Like when I remember maybe early in high school, I remember thinking about just like movies in general, and like how like it seemed like every new big movie was like breaking records, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like in 2012, Harry Potter, like the last Harry Potter was coming out, it broke records and people were like so excited for it. And then like a few years later, it was they were bringing back Star Wars for The Force Awakens, and that was like the highest domestic opening in world history, in America's history. Like that's incredible. Like records were being broken. People were going to the movies. People were looking for a new thing. Like people were trying to reconnect with what they loved when they were kids. And then COVID happens, and then like it's like and then The Last Jedi happens, COVID happens, and I feel like that you know that's like a The Last
It's a
Jedi is like
1-2 punch. Yeah.
dude, it really is. It's ridiculous. Like 2017 sucked for Star Wars. And that was
Hmm.
sort of like the beginning of the end, you know? Like we all thought Star Wars was gonna come back. I'm a massive Star Wars fan.
Uh-huh.
But then Force Awakens, it's like hopeful, you know? Like it's like you might not like the reboot, but at least they were like having fun and there was like a respectful and like you could sort of see where it might go. And then like it gets burned, literally burned, characters die, no satisfaction with any storyline that you thought was relevant. It's nothing. It turns into nothing. And you're supposed to like that. You're supposed to connect your ideas to nothing. Like what? Like it makes no sense. And then COVID happens, and then even more nothing is happening because I'm stuck in my apartment and I don't know what's going on. And so I got to focus on like what I want to focus on. And then all the movies coming out are just like cynical and everyone is like hating each other and like they're trying to have like a interesting dynamic between who hates who and like why is it actually like hating someone is actually funny now or something like that. Like there's like this weird thing, but I want the culture to heal. Like, and I want to be a part of that as an artist. I want to help the culture have these bigger ideas of, you know, like love, seeking love. You know, I think about that movie. I'm not sure if you've seen it. Came out in like 2004 or something, 2005 maybe. Ewan McGregor, Nicole Kidman. What was it? It's a Baz Luhrmann movie. Um, uh, I totally forget. I totally forget the name of it, but it's this romance film and it's about Ewan McGregor. He plays this guy who moves to France, and hey, Shannon, Moulin Rouge, Moulin Rouge. Have you heard of Moulin Rouge?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Moulin Rouge. Dude, the main characters seek truth, beauty, freedom, and love. Like that is the core of that, and that is such a rare thing. And I want to be a part of pushing that idea, pushing those ideas forward because those are actually important and they're actually godly. You know,
Hmm.
like if you believe in God, you probably believe in freedom, which is so weird because people who might not believe in God, they say they believe in like empowerment or freedom, but like they really don't. They just believe in some weird version of control, you know, and they
Hmm.
might judge you for having an opinion, but it's like you're free to have an opinion, but you're not, but then they judge you for not having the right opinion. So it's not really freedom, you know, it's like just this weird thing. And I don't know. I had no question to go off of that, but like that's just I love that idea of truth, beauty, freedom, love, and we need more of that. And hopefully we get more of that, man. Like I don't know of any other movies coming out soon with that, but I'm definitely like I'm seeking them out. I want that energy.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think, well, I thought you had a really interesting point about Star Wars as well, because I think there was definitely a time period there, especially like you said, when like box office records were being broken. And it's like, it seems like these different Hollywood franchises can't lose. They can't miss. Like no matter what slop they churn out, if it's Marvel, people will see it. If it's Star Wars, people will see it. Fuck it. We'll even reboot Indiana Jones. People will go see that no matter how much it sucks ass.
Yep.
But I think something like look at Eternals, that Marvel movie that
Mhm.
just it was supposed to be Marvel and it's supposed to be a big deal and then it just totally flopped. Or
Yep.
the last couple Star Wars ones that did well financially, of course, but not as well as Force Awakens, and people hated them. And I think it has made hopefully like Hollywood or like filmmakers realize or movie studio production companies realize that like people won't like, especially in this economy, people are not going to pay to go see something just because of the name that's on it, just because it's Marvel. Like you actually have to make a good product for people to pay $15 to $20 for a movie ticket to go see it. And
Mhm.
that's a good thing. And it's the same thing I see happening in the gaming industry. Like Call of Duty, they keep churning out slop and each one sells worse than the one before it. Like they stopped breaking records like 7 years ago. So it's
Mhm.
like you either have to release something quality or people won't buy it, especially now that everything's like inflation's crazy, the economy's not great. Like we are paying for quality. And I do think just kind of capping off the movies thing, it really is like one of the most beautiful things we can do because it's like one of the few places, obviously you have to pay for it, but it's one of the few places where like in modern life, a bunch of people can get together and be quiet and put their phones away, hopefully, and experience something together. And we all have our different ideas about it, and we can talk about it afterwards. And it's like something outside of like our day to day, and it's something that can uplift us. I think it's just so important. And I think seeing that these ideas are being reflected on the big screen is like, that's about as good of a, as much of a positive indicator. So for me, it's just like, I don't know. I refuse to be doom and gloom. I get so much doom and gloom stuff on Instagram and YouTube, and the comments I see on my Renaissance videos, people are like, the reason this video stood out to me in my feed was because it was the only one that wasn't negative, saying like how we're entering the apocalypse or World War III or AI is going to destroy the world. And it's like, what, like, I don't know. I've just studied enough history to realize that a culture or a civilization's ideas about itself become reality. We like manifest them into existence, what we believe about ourselves. I mean, it happened with the Romans, it happened with the Aztecs. You can study any society. And so it's like, what you choose to believe is your future. So let's choose to believe, like, what does it benefit us to be cynical and depressed and miserable all the time? Like, I don't know. Nothing, I think.
Yeah, man. It makes me think about like politics a little bit, like, in America, politics can be so divisive, and like Trump can be so like, Trump is Trump and Trump is divisive. But at the same time, he is the guy who like we're going back to the moon when he's president. You know what I mean? Like we are initiating new things. Like he just like legalized some new like psychedelic medicine for veterans to heal from PTSD. It's like there's still this like this bright light, this more positive future that can be seen, even though there's a figure that's so divisive and things like that. And I just think that's interesting, and people are willing to focus on the negative, and but like I'm a person who wants to focus on the positive, and maybe that's like to my detriment sometimes. Like maybe I can ignore the negative sometimes. I can be a bit delusional, but at the same time, I like we need to aim towards something good, like when Jordan Peterson was like, like relevant and alive, like he's still alive, but like, when he was like actually like in the culture, that was like one of the best things that I gravitated towards Jordan Peterson. I'm not sure if you followed him back then, but his whole thing was like aim towards the highest good, and that was like, that's a huge statement. And there's this like the opposite narrative is trying to sink in to people's psyches. Don't aim for the highest good. What is good? There's no real good. Good doesn't exist. It's all gray. But if you choose to aim towards the highest good, you're actually lamenting that there is good and evil. There is black and white. Like things are not set in stone, but things are clear. You can actually make a distinction. You can make a discernment for what is good. Like that's just it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think I remember watching a lot of Jordan Peterson's lectures, like what was that, like late 2010s, I feel like, and then he went into that like coma, and I feel like he's kind of been out of the public eye since then.
Yeah.
But he's paraphrasing Jesus in that seek the highest good, because Jesus says, seek first the kingdom of heaven, meaning always set your compass to the highest possible good, the next right action, and everything else will be given to you. Everything else will fall into place if you just keep seeking that next right action. And I think, I don't know what you're saying about morality and kind of good versus evil. And I do think for a long time, at least the last couple decades, I think culturally, maybe just like in the West, but I think kind of in any like first world kind of country, is that there's a lot of like moral relativism, like a lot of people being like, well, my good and bad is different from your good and bad. And it's like, it depends on your culture and it depends on everything. And it's like, I don't think that's really true. I don't really believe in moral relativism. I think there are things that we all agree on as human beings. We know in our heart of hearts what's right and what's wrong. And it doesn't really differ from culture to culture as much as we like to think that it does, because thinking that way gives you internal moral flexibility to do whatever you want. And people kind of like having an excuse to like do whatever they want, which, whatever. But I do think culturally it's valuable to just have some sort of bedrock that we all agree on, especially in like a time that's as divided as this. It's like, okay, we might feel differently about all these political issues, but at the end of the day, we have like a bedrock, like we as Americans, this is where we stand morally on X, Y, and Z, even if we don't agree on gun control or whatever.
Yeah.
So something that's I don't know. And then I've just seen, I talked about this very briefly in this video I have coming out next week, but the show Euphoria, the new season just came out.
Yeah.
It's like the Sydney Sweeney, Jacob Elordi show.
Yep.
And apparently I haven't seen it, but I see like a bunch of Gen Z people reacting to it on my Instagram feed, unanimously being like, this has gone too far. The hedonism, the like sexualizing, and these aren't like religious influencers. These aren't like spiritual people. These are just regular ass like 23-year-olds being like, I'm so sick of this. I'm sick of everything being sexual. I'm sick of all of this like glorification of things that we all know are wrong. Like, enough. It's jumped the shark. It's gone too far. And I just like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes culturally you just need it. You need a line in the sand. You need a moment where we're just like, enough is enough. We believe in dignity again. We like human beings have worth and like shouldn't be like subjected. Like, you're not just a bag of flesh. You're like a person with a soul, and so is the person on your computer screen, and they shouldn't be like demeaned in that way. And that's horrible. And that we're all. I just like to see people en masse kind of waking up to that as a group. Like,
Yeah.
okay, this is enough. And sometimes the line needs to be pushed too far for us to realize where the line is. And I think that's kind of where we're at, where it's like that, I don't know, none of us really feel comfortable with this anymore. Like, this can't be all that there is.
Yeah, Euphoria is interesting because I think what was the first season, like 2021 or something like that? And like,
Yeah, somewhere around then.
it was still in the COVID era, and it just capitalized the way I interpret Euphoria. And I haven't seen the new season yet, but the way I interpret the whole series is it just utilizes like this weird like porn culture, and it dramatizes porn, and it dramatizes the worst aspects of people, and it tries to make you sympathetic with them. And it's a very twisted thing because when it comes to having sympathy for a person's darkness, there's this idea of like forgiveness, but at the same time you can twist that and you can sympathize with the people who are bad. Like even Breaking Bad is a great example of that. That might be like the best cultural example of people rooting for the bad guy. His pregnant wife wants him to stop selling meth, and we all hate her. Like that's a crazy thing. That's a crazy, and that's some crazy hypnosis that happened. Like Netflix just like beamed that into our eyes, and like all of a sudden our nervous systems want more meth to be sold. Like that's dark. That's dark.
Yeah.
It's just, and then it just evolves into Euphoria, and I'm happy people are like rejecting it, but people are still watching it, and that guy, people hate that guy, Sam Levinson, who makes that show. It's so weird how people have this visceral reaction, but that's where he is, as an artist. Like he's like writing and directing, and he had Kodak make some special film stock for that show. Like he's really like an auteur, I guess you could say. And and that's his idea. And it's like, I almost see that as like a beautiful thing that we can all see, because like that's where he is, that's what he thinks is relevant, that's what he wants to do, and that's what HBO like greenlit. That's like, and clearly like they were right from a business perspective, but from an artistic perspective, I'm happy that Euphoria exists because we can say like this is too much. Like we've gone too far. It's almost like when you're a kid and you go a bit further in the neighborhood than you're supposed to, and you actually don't know how to come back home, but then you got to figure out how to come back home, and you have no phone. It's sort of like that thing. Like, okay, we wandered, and let's take a wise choice and just let's come back here. Let's reel it back in,
Yeah. No, I really do think, and that's a great analogy, going out a little too far and then realizing you've gone too far. And so, yeah, like you said, I mean, I think that has its worth too. Like all these, because it's not just like Euphoria. There's been so much like media in the last 10 years that kind of does that same thing. And I think there's a certain degree of like needing to depict the humanity of people who are like kind of caught up in these lifestyles and these situations. And I think there's value to that. And you can do that without, what's the word? Like promoting those lifestyles or promoting those values in a way that's like kind of brainwashing young people into thinking like this is a good path for you to take. But all that said, I think it's just as important. And I do think it's art, but I do think it's just as important for like, just to show us where the line is, show us like our cultural, where like this, like tolerance, where does tolerance, like what point, what are we tolerating? Because you can't tolerate everything.
Yeah.
So where does the limit exist? And so I
Yeah.
think that's, I don't know, it has its value there, I suppose.
If you, it's almost like if you're tolerating the debauchery, you also have to tolerate the Nazis. You know what I mean?
Mm,
It's like, are we gonna tolerate everything? Like that's not good either. Like we got to have a line.
yeah,
We got to have, brackets. Brackets are good.
right, right.
That's cool, man. So what else is interesting, man? Like, do you think we're like in the Renaissance? Do you think like we're in the early innings of the Renaissance? Like, what's your perspective on that, man? Like, where are we at, and where do you really think we're going? Like, how long is this gonna last?
Yeah. Well, I think everything now, just in the age of mass communication and the internet, happens in a much more abbreviated period of time. Because obviously the original Renaissance was like 200 plus years, whereas I think now things just happen much quicker. So I made a video last year about how the 2020s are similar to the Middle Ages, and then the 2030s are going to be the new Renaissance. And, I got a lot of comments being like, well, the Middle Ages lasted 1,000 years and the Renaissance lasted like 2 centuries. Like how is a decade each going to cover that? But I think that's just how things work now. And if I had to like draw a clear historical parallel to like where we are right now in 2026, I would say it is like that blurry late Middle Ages, early Renaissance overlap period where we're kind of coming out of something that had its positives and had its negatives, but that has clearly like overstayed its welcome culturally and like philosophically. But we haven't quite stepped with both feet into the new paradigm yet. Like you still see some of those old vestiges of like, I don't know, medieval thinking, us against them, black and white thinking, mob, whatever. And then we're kind of stepping into this like truth, beauty, believing in something greater than ourselves, recognizing the nuance in human behavior and in each other, and finding the things that we agree on. But we're like a toe in that pool with Project Hail Mary, or like what's going on with video games, or like the hope posting I see on social media. So I think it's going to be hope. It's just difficult to tell now how abbreviated everything is. But I would say like I see this trend continuing for the next 5 years at least, like trending up, and then who knows where it goes from there. Because I think people are just sick of first of all being told what to think,
Hmm.
and sick of being all depressed and sad all the time. I don't know. We got enough of that during COVID. We got a lifetime of that during COVID.
Yeah.
No more sitting in the crib, ordering Uber Eats, not leaving the house. Like we're going outside, we're touching grass, we're
Hmm.
hope posting. It's time for a new paradigm. Like the youth want to live again. We're sick of it.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I agree, man. It's like you got to build. I think you mentioned something about like the Renaissance was happening in like pockets
Mhm.
around Europe, right? And I feel like we gotta, if we're talking about America here, we gotta build our own pockets, because you're in the Midwest, right? And I'm out here on the West Side. Like we need to build our pockets wherever you're at. I feel like if you have an instinct to, whether it's to get a group of people to exercise, or maybe it's a group of people to read Project Hail Mary, or like to try to find a community where you're consuming positive content, and to just like be outside a bit more, to seek life a bit more, to have honest discussions, open discussions a bit more. Like if you have that instinct, you got to build that pocket. That's what we
Mhm.
need. That's how this like awakening, I guess you and I are sort of aligned on. That's how this like wider awakening can happen, more broadly and faster as well, because the internet is like speeding things up. I definitely agree with that. And you're able to like cycle through ideas at a faster pace. And so we had a few years of COVID and cynicism and things like this, and now like everyone agrees, or mostly everyone agrees that like that's no good. And now we can actually start posting the positive ideas, what's really working. Let's refine. I want to refine these ideas. That's something that I've been into, just from like a spiritual perspective. I personally, I don't want any like doctrine. I want truth. And I feel like that's something that has, uh, it's sort of been like tangled up within religion. Like the doctrine was truth, or the doctrine was tied to truth, but I feel as though there's a distinction between that, and I'm actually seeking truth, and I hope more people are. I'm not sure if that's an accurate thing to think. Maybe it's sacrilegious to think that doctrine is not truth, but like I just feel like there's something there.
Yeah, I think people seeking truth is never a bad thing, and kind of people looking for answers outside of just kind of like the day to day mundane. And I think a lot of this, like we've said, is like happening online, and it's starting online, and now it's starting to like leak onto our movie screens and TV screens and whatever. But I do agree with you that the only real way forward is for it to happen, is it for it to go offline. It has to go offline.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping, like I said earlier, like with the rise of AI and just AI generated slop everywhere and whatever, that hopefully people will be spending less time on social media. I know I now spend less time on Instagram because half my feed is AI garbage, and it's like just feels like a waste of time. Less time on Instagram and more time just finding real life things to go and do. And I, for I've done a couple of videos about like Gen Z or Gen Z trends, and you have all these authors cranking out these articles every day about Gen Z's destroying this industry, but Gen Z's birthing this new industry and whatever. And it seems like the big thing that they're into is like finding physical activity, like finding things to do that aren't online because they're sick of it, and finding things to do that they don't have to pay for, like a run club or something like that, or like meeting up in the park and doing Tai Chi, like stuff
Hmm.
like that, where it's just like we're together as a small group of us, no phones, and we're just doing things. And I think all of this is tied together: less alcohol consumption, more emphasis placed on health, and like organic food and all of this stuff. No seed oils. That's a big thing too.
Hell yeah.
Like the youth are into it. The youth are into it, and it's like I think that's a cool thing and a good trend.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So we're at an hour. I want to respect your time, but I have my one last thing that I want to touch on is we're talking about, a lot of talk about culture, a lot of talk about like what needs to happen, a lot of talk about the top down. But when it comes to you, how are you approaching like your own renaissance? Like how are you trying to connect to that idea? Are you doing that through health? Are you doing that through different types of content that you're absorbing? You've already mentioned you're not on Instagram as much. Like how are you personally approaching being a part of the renaissance?
Yeah, I think the first step for me was I had to delete all of it off my phone. It's weird because I do social media like as my job, but I don't have the YouTube app or Instagram or any of that on my phone. I go on once a day on my computer or twice a day to check messages or like reply to comments, and that's pretty much it. Or like post a reel, and that's pretty much it. Besides that, I just like am doing research for my videos and things like that. So basically, I started with just trying to spend less time consuming and more time creating, which I think is important. Like most of us, if you've have the average screen time that most people have these days, you've consumed enough. You don't need to consume any more right now. Maybe put it down, and it's time to start creating something. And I think for me, what started this kind of personal idea of the Renaissance, what actually led to me first creating this YouTube channel a little over a year ago, is like just do it badly. I know that's like such a well used slogan or whatever, but it's like I've wanted to do YouTube for years, and I never started because I'm like, it's going to suck and my friends are going to make fun of me and like it's going to be embarrassing. But it's like, just embrace that it's going to suck. Like, embrace that like your first 20 videos are going to be complete garbage, and just do it anyway because it's fun and because and like separate yourself from the result. Maybe nobody will watch it. Maybe you post drawings on Instagram and nobody likes your pictures, but it's like separate yourself from the result. And for me, I think like health and fitness are very, very tied into my renaissance. Definitely. I mean, that's been something, especially over the last few years, that I've been more and more honed in on. Going to the gym, I do a lot of long distance running. So that's like a big, like kind of spiritual thing for me. Um, and I think there was a big idea of that even just in the original Greek and Roman culture of like carving your body into something,
Mhm.
that there's something deeply spiritual and divine about kind of trying to make the best that you can out of what you've been given. Same with like what you eat and what you put into your body. And then, I mean, I'm Catholic, so I have my spirituality tied up in that. But Catholicism is a very broad umbrella. It's a 2,000-year tradition, and they never really threw anything out. It's absorbed there's a lot of different like avenues in Catholicism. And I embrace a sort of like mystical, sort of medieval Catholicism. So it is breathwork, meditation, prayer, different kinds of scriptural interpretation, things like that. And then like also participation in my Catholic community as well. So all of that is just, I don't know. I honestly feel like you can just kind of set your goal as, how do I keep myself occupied off of, if I deleted Instagram and YouTube off my phone, what do I do with that like 4 hours a day that I just saved myself? Like, how am I filling that time? And then start filling it.
Yeah. I respect that, man. I'm on a similar path. I haven't deleted Instagram yet. I haven't deleted YouTube yet. Those are the things that I should probably delete Twitter. That's the thing. I don't even want to look at my freaking screen time, dude. Like I'm just wasting so much time on that, and I'm not even engaging. I'm just like
It's
lurking.
hard.
It's super hard, dude. I'm just like
Yeah, it's real
refreshing
hard.
pages I want to read. And it's like it's really hard. So I got to do better with that. But I'm totally aligned with you on the health, and like people can engage with their own renaissance with that stuff, because when you seek beauty in yourself, and that's not like a looks maxing thing, it's like health is beauty,
Mhm.
when you try to be the healthiest version of yourself, that is of the path of the best version of yourself.
Mhm.
So like, just thank you for doing that, man. Thank you for being a part of that. Cause I feel like that energy, like it vibrates,
Yeah,
vibrate.
yeah, and I want people like I'm not. Did I've bad days on this journey too, and it's not like I'm perfect or anything. But I think that's also part of it. Part of what I was saying about like creating, like embrace the bad too. Embrace that sometimes it's going to suck. Sometimes it's not going to look sexy. But yeah, that's something I just kind of want to communicate in my videos. That like there's always a brighter tomorrow, and we decide that. That isn't decided for you as much as like everything is set up to make you think that way. Like you decide your future. Like us as a collective. So let's decide, let's make it a good one.
Hell yeah, man. I respect that, dude. I'm with that. I'm aligned with that, brother. Thank you, John.
Of course.
Well, your YouTube channel is Medieval Mindset, man. When do you post videos? Do you have a schedule? Like, how can people like connect with you?
Yeah, I usually post about every 10 days. I mean, at least 2 to 3 videos a month. And then I also have, if you want a hat, t-shirt, anything, medievalmindset.com. And then I also am on Instagram, medieval_mindset, if you want to follow me there. I chop up my videos into reels and then post them there. And then I also like, if anybody messages me, I usually reply there. So that's how I stay in touch. But yeah, go check out the YouTube channel
Right on, man. Thank you so much.
for sure. Thank you for having me.